This isn't how I intended to start this. This isn't how I intended to begin this. But it's getting more and more obvious to me that it needs to be said in this state, in this country, in the current state it is in, that we are not doing the most that we can. We're living in this gray area in the dark without any plan for the future, without any intent on the future. We want things to go blue, so hopefully maybe it'll get rid of the red. Does blue color over red? Does that work? Is it gonna become purple? We're gonna become purple. We're gonna get rid of all the fascists by our quiet indignation in Minnesota. I don't see that being the thing that happens. I see what happens is the people sell their soul slowly to the system. A No Kings protest becomes No Kings Day. You know, it becomes part of the democratic process. So who came down to the ICE rallies? We're like, oh, they're showing their support. No, they weren't. They're corralling us. We need to stop being corralled, and we need to speak out, and we need to say something. Each Minnesotan has more power to change the system that they're in than we all pretend we do. We don't have to settle for the two blue people. You know, it's like, oh, our mayors are all red and the governor's blue. You know, if the governor turns red, you know what happens to all the systems we've built up? You know what happens to all the bills he's passed? All the orders he's put through to provide free health care, provide lunches to children. Do you know what happens to our very system if we allow it to go down the path of maybe it will turn red? It's not just a possibility, it's a probability. If we don't stand up, if we don't become more than just little voices for hope, you know, hope and change. It was a nice slogan, but we have to become leftists and not liberals. We have to become progressives, progressing this world forward. We can't just sit in this state, in this country, in our little corners and pretend like the once year time when something big happens and we show up for a few minutes and leave, that we have put ourselves on the line at all, that we have changed anything dramatically for anyone else, that we have reached the communities that are being affected. There are so many doing such good work, and they are left without resources because in Minnesota we just allow our government to say, oh, that isn't the project we're supporting this month. We need to become more. Like I said, this isn't the way I wanted to start my YouTube career. This isn't the thing that I wanted to say in my first video. I tried scripting and I tried saying it in a concise, bullet pointed way, but I don't think a bullet point will do for what I have to say. I just want it to be heard by the most people. I want the most people to understand that we, as Minnesotans, are dropping the ball. That we can do better. That we don't have to settle for little groups here and there. That we don't have to wait for the DSA to do something, because the Democrats are not going to become the DSA. We were once the Democratic farmer laborers. We were once the farmer laborers. We were once outside of the current two-system party, but we just folded into one, and it keeps happening. The history of concessions needs to stop. We need to give our voices to people who need to hear our voices, because they can't hear it. They can't hear you in your bedroom saying you don't like the way the government's going. They can't hear you when you tell your best friend that you don't like Donald Trump. They can't hear you when you make your jokes about the TikTok video you just watched. When we hear you the loudest is when you're next to us. When you're saying it with us. When you tell the system no more. When you put yourself on the line, when you put your job on the line, when you put your career on the line, when you are heard by the loudest people in the room, when your voice overthrows the voice of the people who are telling us that we don't belong, is when you're heard. Just something to think about.